Season 10 has recently ended, and I ended the season with around 1350 elo, which is around dead middle of Emerald. And yeah, this video is supposed to be just me reflecting on my performance for the entirety of season 10. But first, I want to talk about the ending of the season because nothing went to plan for whatever I wanted to do. So the other week, I uploaded a video talking about pushing for Diamond 2, but at the end of the season, I never got close to Diamond 2 at all. In fact, I think I've gone further away because at the end, I lost around 300 elo, I think, and then went back to Emerald 1. At that point, the only thing I could do before the end of the season was just to salvage my elo loss and possibly try to hit back to Emerald 3, which was the plan. But during the last day of the season, for some reason, my place had a scheduled power, like a power maintenance, and I wasn't aware of it. So I woke up during the day planning to do a final push for the season, and this was 9 hours before the season ended, by the way. And then suddenly my power gets cut off, and I figured out that there's a 5 hour power maintenance. And now I'm just sat there like not being able to do anything, which is so stupid. And it gets even worse because they said 5 hours for power maintenance, but they lied because they took an extra 2 hours. And now, by the time my electricity came back, it was basically just 2 hours before the season ended, which is so stupid. I was like kind of mentally clocked out at that point, but 2 hours is 2 hours, and time is time. So of course I would still attempt, save my elo and all that, and I did eventually kind of save it. I think I was like 1280 when the final day started, and I kind of pushed back to 1350, which is the dead middle of Emerald, and then that's when the season ended when my last match ended up being a forced draw, right? So that's fine and all, right? But it kind of sucks. I ended up losing 7 possible hours I could have used to push for elo. I could see myself going back to 1400, not diamond maybe, but 1400 within those 7 hours, right? So it was kind of dumb I missed that. But then again, looking back, I feel like it made sense I ended the season at 1350 because there were several things towards the end of the season I feel like I failed to consider, which caused my regression in gameplay, basically, right? Which I'll talk about in a bit. But for now, let's do like a quick recap of the season because it's supposed to be a reflection, right? So, first things first, this is my first MCSR ranked season. I did not go in with no speedrunning knowledge whatsoever. I have speedrun Minecraft before, back like 4 years ago, back when RSG was the main category, and I used to speedrun 1.15 RSG, right? So when I came back, I was basically relearning old strats, but at the same time learning new ones altogether because I was not familiar with Bastion routes at the time, right? So yeah, the first 2 weeks of the season was basically just getting familiarized with Bastion routes and like basically every part of the run. And then I think at that 2 week period, I got 1303 PB. And after that 2 week period, it was placement matches. I got 4 out of 5 wins, and I ended up landing in gold 2, which is better than I expected. Um, and then after that, it was like the real grind, basically, right? The first few matches of the season were basically getting used to real opponents. Because, I ended up feeling nervous a lot of the time, so the first few matches were just me getting used to the fact I'm playing against someone and there's like actual elo at stakes, right? But besides that, it really didn't take too long for me to hit Emerald. But Emerald was really where the grind felt like a grind, because I was struggling a lot when it came to trying to reach Emerald 2. A lot of the time was basically just win lose, like the elo graph going up and down, right? I mean, at the time, like I was still getting used to matches, right? Because I got to Emerald pretty quick, but I just didn't have the consistency yet, and I was still trying to establish proper habits so that I didn't have to think about them when I get better in the game, right? My mind was too occupied like on certain stuff, and then I would just die to something stupid, basically. But yeah, within the period in Emerald, I think I'm not in Emerald, I was in Gold, I forgot. But yeah, I got a real rank PB of 1303. And then, after a while in Emerald, I basically hit Emerald 2, but now it became the same problem again of struggling to hit Emerald 3. And I think the main problem at the time was more so just my consistency again, but specifically because of Bastions and stuff, because I would die a lot to Bastions, I realized during that time, so I ended up making sure that when I start my sessions, I would also practice Bastions first by itself, and it really helped with my consistency. But not only that, I also realized that my consistency was just bad because I was just nervous a lot of the time. So I don't really play my best. And I think the reason was that because I ended up having like expectations for myself whenever I practice. Because when you practice, you end up building expectations over time. And when you play real matches, you're kind of playing with those expectations at stake. So I end up feeling more nervous than I usually am. So the only way to like solve that was to basically just go into my sessions without any like private room practice. So the session would be like this. I would play bastions first for like a few minutes and then just go straight to ranked matches. And I think the reason why this worked for me was because mentally in my head I've kind of just like thrown myself under the bus basically by saying, "Hey, let's not practice and let's just go straight into ranked matches with no like warm up and all that, right?" And my mind is already like thinking, "Oh yeah, we're gonna lose," and that makes me less nervous, which in turn makes me play better. Which is kind of weird when you think about it, but it works a lot of the time personally, and I found it working uh really well. So I ended up continuing doing that. Of course, I do end up practicing, but only towards the end because that's the end of the session, and like there's not anything after that anymore, and I would just play again during the next day, right? But yeah, thanks to that, I basically hit Emerald 3. And at some point during that time, when I hit Emerald 3, everything kind of just started locking in. Or not locking in, more like everything started clicking together. Most of, like, every part of the run became almost automatic, basically. Kind of to the point where I can mentally, take into account other parts of the run, specifically making sure I don't die more, and that really did help with my consistency. But not only that, like it also helped when it came to weird scenarios which you don't usually encounter in practice, like home portals and stuff. So that additional consistency ended up really helping. I would end up be staying in Emerald 3 a lot of the time, and I would eventually peak at Diamond 1, which was nice because it was like a goal in the back of my mind. Not so much a goal I would be locked in on achieving, because I feel like if I locked in on Elo only, I wouldn't perform as well. But regardless, I feel like it was an accomplishment to be able to hit Diamond 1 when I had that goal in the back of my mind, right? So once I hit Diamond 1, the only goal moving forward personally for me was to get more consistent, or like get faster at decision making, or practice zeros, which I think I focused more on during that time because there were 2 months left in the season, and I spent one of those months not playing ranked because, for one, I had school, but two, I ended up practicing zeros a lot. And during the last month of the season is when I started trying applying them on real matches, which I think now I can talk about why the end of the season did not go so well. So the end of the season, the last month or so, was when I started applying zeros. And the main problem with that was I wasn't used, or I just didn't know to what degree I apply zeros in a real run. And it really messed up a lot of runs that I should have won, or a lot of matches that I should have won. Because for most matches, during the end of the season, I would end up going into them thinking I should go for zero, when in fact there are like several scenarios where I should not have been going for zeros because I'm like ahead of my opponent, or like and stuff like that, right? But for some reason, I just did not create that boundary in my head of what I should be going for, and that ended up affecting all of my gameplay. I think one example is blaze bedding. I ended up doing one blaze bed instead of two, which threw me off sometimes because I'm more so used to two blaze beds instead of one. But yeah, the fact that I had to account for the zero in a real match also made it so that I couldn't mentally take note of other parts of the runs, and it'll just end up with me making a stupid mistake in a bastion. Not only that, it was a month after I played ranked, and I haven't played properly in a month, so everything about my consistency just went down. And then once you take into the account that I'm trying to hit zeros, it's just a really bad combination, and I ended up losing a lot of matches where I should have just won. So it did not go well, and at the end of the season I kind of realized that, and I kind of wish I kind of realized that early on, but you can't really do anything about it. I could have played more, honestly, but I had school, so it is what it is. But yeah, the season ended 13-50 and whatnot. But since the season is ended and the new one has started, I guess it's time to just think about what I should be doing moving forward. As for goals, I would say I'm kind of satisfied, but also disappointed. For one, I've hit diamond, so that's cool, right? But At the same time, like I really don't like my average. If you look at my profile, it's just I have like a 1630 average, which is honestly disgusting. I really didn't. I really wanted to have a sub 15 average by the end of the season, but I don't know if I should be trusting the one in like the profile because those are, like, if you think about it, the average does take into account all of your runs, and if you're a new player who's like trying to improve a lot, you you end up dramatically improving fast during the beginning of your process. So your runs just end up getting faster, like you end up getting faster runs much quicker than usual. So your really slow runs at the very beginning of the season are just like dragging down your average. So in the end, I don't think the 1630 average is anything to like take note of personally. I don't really know. I'm still gonna think about that. The 16-minute average is still disgusting in my head, but I'm not gonna try to think about it too much. The PB though, honestly, I feel like I can hit a like I know I'm a capable runner. Like I know I can hit a better run than a 11-minute PB because I've had several sub 10 runs that have been like that I have choked because my opponent won or I just did something bad. Or and then not only that, I have a 1017 private room PB. So like I know I'm very much capable of getting a sub 10, sub 11 or sub 10 run, and I feel like it's just a matter of like when I'm going to hit it, right? So yeah. As for what I want for next season, like goals for next season, basically I think it's pretty much obvious. Like I want a new PB, sub 11, sub 10 at the very least. I want to like in general, I want to apply zeros to almost all of my runs. But I guess to begin with, just apply them more and like kind of create a boundary for myself so I don't end up performing like how I did in the end of the season. And as for averages, sub 15 average, obviously. As for elo, I kind of just want to be comfortable at diamonds, maybe like diamond 2 or something like that. But besides that, I think I did well for this season. I'm kind of fine, or I'm kind of proud for myself for what I've achieved. And I'm hoping that, you know, I end up performing better for the next season, so yeah. Oh yeah, one thing I should mention, 0% forfeit rate. My profile says 1%, but that's just because of crashes. I fix whatever crashes my laptop, so hopefully in the next season, 0% forfeit rate. It has to be 0% forfeit rate. I do not want to forfeit. We are not gonna forfeit.